with irrigated. And I think that statement comes out. Bald statement. We have gotten most of what's possible with our irrigated technology, and we don't see where we can go much further. Well, I've already said that you've been looking in the wrong direction. But if you're going to try and approach that complex of rain-fed, you're dealing with some intractable problems. Drought tolerance, for one. I'm not convinced there is much. You're dealing with irregular, erratic water. It rains, it doesn't rain, submergence, drouthy. You're dealing with, inevitably, a series of mineral nutrition interactions between the soil and the lack of water. You're going to have all kinds of deficiencies coming up. These are hard. And why do you do that? The great God-given benefit of rice is that it does well with its feet in water. If you take the water away, you just got another cereal. Call it sorghum, call it maize, whatever. Why try and take away the great gift of rice, which it does so splendidly if it has water sitting on it, and turn it into something that just, in evolutionary terms, it just never went through that process. In short, I don't think you can do much. If you put all your resources on this declining rain-fed, and it's going to be very, very difficult, I don't think you're going to have much to show for it. I do think, and I'll take the opposite position just for the sake of argument, you have not extracted from the irrigated sector all the good that's in there. You've gotten a portion of it. And IRRI and the subsequent varieties obviously helped enormously in that respect. But you've got a yield gap in irrigated, and I just wouldn't believe it if someone tried to argue to me that there isn't much yield gap. I think it's there, and I think it's big. So that means to me, I would invest in irrigated, preference to irrigated. And I'd try and figure out, what does this yield gap do to? I've been arguing it probably as agronomy, but who knows? I think the future is in irrigated. Although water is declining, I don't think you can keep people on the farm with low yield, rain-fed, upland, marginalized ecologies that have little productivity in them. Today, I don't think I don't think it's sustainable. Irrigated rice is sustainable if it's well done, and it can be much more efficient in terms of water. So if I were IRRI, I'd take the leadership in those two areas. I'd go back on a focus on irrigated, particularly in the dry season when water is short. Figure out ways to capture water. Yields are always much higher in the dry season than the rainy season. And I would certainly emphasize agronomy, management of the crops. I occasionally watch the news on American television, and I see short clips of farmers in China, women particularly, out there with a bag of fertilizer, wading through a rice paddy. There's water on the field. They're taking urea and throwing it into the water. That's dinosaur age. You don't do that. You lose your urea when you throw it into water. Examples like that. The nitrogen efficiency must be terrible. And as you convert, which I think is probably inevitable, it'll take you a while, convert in Asia from transplanted to direct seeded. I think that has to come. In any ecology, irrigated or even rain-fed, you're going to run into new problems. New problems. They're just built into these two planting systems. You and I talked a little bit yesterday about the absolute requirement for tolerance to the delayed harvest if you direct seed, which you do not need if you transplant. That's one example. So I would suggest that, yes, you need an IRRI. IRRI is uniquely positioned to show leadership. If IRRI settles back and becomes just another good research institution among many in Asia, I don't see much need for IRRI. It's just another one. It's leadership. You have to lead the way, as we did many years ago. And as I think you can in the future. And then you ask yourself, now where am I going to lead this crop, this commodity? Exactly. What can we do to make it more productive? Those would be my two ideas. It was so long ago, and you know that you're always going to make mistakes. It's inevitable. Particularly in plant breeding, if you're good, as I was mentioning to you yesterday, my guess is that every 1,000 crosses you make, you might develop a variety. That means you failed 999 times out of 1,000. Sure, you make mistakes all the time, but the big issues, gee, I don't know. It just seemed to have worked. Whatever we did, it worked. And I judge it on that basis, knowing that it screwed up inevitably in many ways, but on balance, I think it was okay, and I wouldn't have changed much. There was a very famous American baseball, general manager of the Brooklyn Dodgers. I was a fan of the Brooklyn Dodgers when I was a little boy. That was Branch Rickey. He was a wizard. And he said, luck is the residue of design. I think he was right. Sure, you're lucky. Some people are lucky, some people are not lucky. Why are some people lucky? I think it's because they've been thinking about this a lot. You know, luck does appear on its own volition, I know, from time to time, but a lot of luck is the consequence of putting a lot of mental, observational evidence all together, and all of a sudden it happens, it works. Yeah, there's luck, there's always luck, but sometimes you earn your luck. You influence your luck, sure. I wish I were 26 years old again.